everyone, this is Hugo from Ichiban Studio, and today we're going to be having a review and it's kind of like a product review, but we're going to be talking about the Minitaire paint line, the ones that's behind me right there, this one. And so it's a new paint range for miniature painting that it came out from Badger. So today in this video we're going to be looking at mainly three things. We're going to be looking at the color palette and what are the paints that are available. Then after that we're going to talk a little bit about the how these paints were designed, and then after that we're going to do it to the bench, the workbench, and we're going to actually put these paints to the test, so you're going to be able to see how they perform and how they work and if it would be a good paint range for you. So we're going to be doing some airbrushed tests because these paints were designed for airbrushing, and we're also going to do a brush test for those of you that are maybe interested in buying those paints but don't really use an airbrush all the time, and that use a mix of paints. So if you would maybe kind of want to have that range of paint for the whole has your main paint range, if it's a good option to you or if it's not a good option to you, we're going to be looking at all of that, and I'm going to give you my opinion on the paints. So basically let's move into the next segments where we're going to actually look at the color palette and the colors and the paints that are available. So here we have the color palette and the Minitaire paint is offering you. So you have 62 basic colors, then after that you have 12 ghost tints, 6 metallics, and 4 mediums, if you would say. The mediums are basically a paint retardant, some gloss varnish, flat varnish, and satin varnish, and you have the 62 paints that are available. The color choice in those paints are amazing. I mean, the grays, the tones and the grays and the shading and all the grays that you can have, the purple, the reds, the orange, the greens, the blue, and everything is amazing. And then after that you have the 12 ghost tints. The ghost tints are basically colors that are really have a translucent, it's a candy paint, right? So for those of you that are not aware what a candy paint is, it's a really translucent paint which gives you the ability to create really cool effect with your paints and tinting some areas where you paint. Those paints are specifically designed for airbrushing, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. So the cool thing about the Minitaire range of paint is that the way that Ken and the guys, the chemists over at Badger, Les and Chung and Mathieu Fontaine that worked on this project to create this line of paint, what they had in mind is really keep a paint that is really easily airbrushable. And by that, what they actually created is they created a whole range of paint that has the same consistency over all the paint and the tints and everything that they have. So basically, to achieve that, what they did is that they had to have the same viscosity. And this is something that I actually noticed by working with the paints and working with other paint range like the Vallejo model layer that was a little bit off. Okay, so basically the Minitaire paint, some paints, and if you know the chemistry of paints, it's working with pigments. Some pigments for some different colors, some pigments have a higher and bigger pigments, heavier pigments, and some other have lighter pigments. So to keep the same consistency over all the paint, they actually test out that every single paint has the same consistency. So for paints that have lighter pigments, the paints are going to be more concentrated, and for the paints that have a higher pigment rate, the paints are going to be a little bit more thinned out. So you're going to have to apply maybe 2 or 3 coats of paint to get the same coverage of other colors. But what it actually helps you is to have a paint that will not clog up your airbrush and that will flow smoothly in your airbrush. Something that sometimes the Vallejo model layer was not able to provide, which means that I remember some of the metallics in the Vallejo range, you would actually have to thin it down when it's supposed to be right off the bottle ready to airbrush, and it was not the case for some of the colors in the model layer range. But the Minitaire range, there's no problem with that. Any paints, you just put it in your airbrush and it just sprays out like a dream. I would say, like, yeah, basically a dream. So basically in the next segment we're gonna go see how those paints perform, and I'm just gonna show you a little bit the normal paints, the metallic paints, and also the ghost tint in action with an airbrush. Now we're going to be looking at the normal colors from the paints, the basic colors. So basically I have some irradiated yellow, some Spellinger blue, and some angelic blood. These are the 3 colors I have, and for this demonstration what I'll do is we're going to look at the the flow capability of that through an airbrush. And I actually brought in my Badger 360 for this because I'm actually going to show you something that's cool also. Badger, with the Minitaire paint and most of the paint range of Badger, the bottles that they use, they also sell these little cup here, and basically it's really easy. What you can do is you take your paint bottle and you unscrew the cap, and then you screw in this cap like this, and then if you have a siphon feed airbrush, you can clip the bottle directly on your airbrush and it's ready to spray. So this is the yellow. Okay, so here we go. So as you can see, the yellow with only one application covers pretty well for a yellow, but you can still see, especially on the side here where there's a little bit of black, you can still see it. Yellow is one of the colors that have really light pigments and normally doesn't cover that well. So that being said, being diluted like it is right now, the coverage will be less and will require more application, but it can still give you a good idea of how much coverage you can get. And you know, it sprays really wonderfully right off the bottle. As you can see, a really nice flow to the whole thing, and the coverage, like I said, is pretty awesome for a yellow. I must say. Let's move on to the next colors. One of the cool thing with the Badger 360 as an airbrush, since we're there, is that right now what I did is I was spraying yellow, right? And then I have another bottle here with my thinner. Once I finished spraying my yellow, I just connected my thinner bottle, I sprayed it out, and now the hairbrush is all clean and ready to change color. So it's really easy to change color and really quick to do so when you're using this airbrush. So for quick base coating jobs, it's an amazing. So let's go see how the blue performs. So you can see right off the bat the blue has a really better coverage than the yellow, just due to the pigment nature of the blue, because you can see it if we make it go on to the yellow a little bit, the coverage is really nice. It covers the yellow really easily, and with a pretty thin coat layer of paint, he's able to do that job. So you can see right there how much coverage you can get, and this is a really light coat, and still you know, there's some areas will need another coat, but it gives you an idea of how smooth the paint goes on and how nice the coverage is. So now let's just wait it dries, and we're gonna do another application of the coat just to give you an idea of how well and how smooth this coat goes on. Just take in consideration that the plate that I'm using is not the most the most flat surface ever, but still gives you an idea of how much nicely the coverage is with the blue. And we're gonna move on to the red, and then after that we're gonna touch in a little bit about the metallics. Okay, time to really go challenge the paint. Okay, we're gonna be using metallics, and as you can know, as you know, if you ever did some airbrushing and you airbrush metallic paints are actually hard to airbrush. Sometimes they clog up the airbrush, the paint is not flowing really well. So basically we're going to be put them to the test, and to push the test to the maximum, just to show you the capability of these paints, I'm going to be using my Renegade Chrome with a fine needle, so which means a really small nozzle and needle, which actually makes it really hard for the paint to go in when they have big pigments. But we're gonna put it to the test with this one, just to show you how great they are for airbrushing. So this is the chrome silver. We're gonna put some chrome silver into the bad boy, and we're gonna airbrush it. And we're gonna airbrush it here on the gray, and we're also gonna airbrush it on the red just to show you the coverage. You can see here we have the chrome. It's a little bit hard to see because it's chrome, so it's silver, but maybe if I put it a little bit here, gives you a better idea of the chrome color. So chrome, see, you know, sometimes it's a little bit hard for it to come out. You have to use a little bit higher pressure and everything, but this is totally normal because, like I said, this is a really fine needle and nozzle, and normally you wouldn't use that fine of a needle to spray some metallic. You would go maybe probably with a Patriot 105 that has a standard bigger needle, or the one that was using before, which is the Badger 360, which also has a big needle. But I really wanted to show you how those airbrushes are able to perform. Not those airbrushes, but those paints are able to perform. Now we're going to be looking at the ghost tints. Basically, in the situation I was here, I painted the hork head, and it was a little bit too, actually too fluorescent for my taste. So the ghost tints came actually right at the good time to save my ass on this one. Is basically I take some green ghost tint and also some oil discharge ghost tint, and I mix them together, and I'm applying it to the hork head just to tone down the fluorescent green, just to give me a good layer to actually work on my orc skin and everything. This is just the base coat, but I think it was a good application to show you guys what the ghost tint can do in toning in a whole area down, or actually give more pop to an area. It really depends on how you want to use it, how you want to implement it, but it's an amazing addition to this paint range, and it's surely opens up a lot of opportunity for many other things to do. Now it's the part of the review where it gets a little bit more tricky. For the Minitaire paint, if you want to brush it on, it offers a really good coverage for certain paints, but still, some people, as you can see now, I'm covering the red with gray. For beginner painters, this paint range, if you're thinking of applying it with a brush, it might offer you a little bit of trouble. More advanced painters and normally like to have diluted paint to be able to work in with thin layers of paint and being able to build up your colors and blend your colors and everything. For if you're an advanced painter, this paint range is going to be awesome to paint also, because the paint pigments are all, and the paints are already pre-diluted to a really nice working consistency where you're going to be able to work with your paint. They dry pretty quickly and they apply really well and they flow really well on the models. But for a beginner painter, this paint range might offer a little bit of difficulties, because if you're looking for a paint that's going to cover right off the bat, then you're not going to be really well pleased with that if you're thinking about a brush application. Right now I'm gonna this is the concrete gray that I've just applied on the plate here, and I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit so you guys can see what it looks like zoomed in. So you can see that the coverage is not we're talking about a red base, so it's not the easiest to cover, but still you can see the coverage that I'm gonna need at least 1 or 2 coats of paint to be able to cover this area well. Now I'm gonna take some Wolfe Gray from the game color, right, with just a little tiny bit of water that I'll mix it in, and then you're going to be able to see the difference between, for example, the Vallejo. And so this is with just a little bit of water on my brush, and right there it covers one shot, compared to the Minitaire paint that it doesn't cover one shot. You're gonna have to use many application. I used the gray. I could have used any color and it would have been the same thing due to the heavy dilution of paint for the airbrush ability. But again, if you reapply, it's not super dry, but if you reapply more layers of paint, you're gonna still be able to achieve a coverage that's going to be good enough, but it's not going to be a one-shot deal. So if you're a painter that's looking for a paint range mainly for brush painting, the Minitaire paint might not be the best solution for you. Although if you like to work with diluted paint and build up your layers to have more control and a better smooth or a better flowing paint, and gives you the ability to build a smoother layer without the brush strokes, the Minitaire paint will fit your needs. But if you're a painter that likes to paint in 1 or 2 shots and it offers good coverage, then it might not be the best solution for you. But although you have to keep in mind again that this whole paint range was developed for painting with an airbrush and not with a brush. So here we go, guys. This was my review on the Minitaire paint range. You know, like I said, in conclusion, like I said, this is an amazing paint range for being able to airbrush. The consistency of all the paint in this range is always the same. It's amazing. You will actually never have to dilute your paint and put them in the airbrush. It's straight through from the bottle. Some paints do offer a little bit less coverage than some other, and you will need to use a little bit more layers of paint to cover your areas, but it will still ensure that you always have a nice mix of paint in your bottle to be able to put it in your airbrush and have no problem whatsoever with blocking or clogging due to the paint being a little bit too thick. Either way, if you're working with a really fine precise needle and nozzle set, or if you're working with bigger needle gauges. But like I said in the last segment, if you're looking for an alternative for brush painting, then maybe the Minitaire paint will not be the solution or the paint range that is the best suitable for your needs. So don't throw away your game color or your P3 or whatever paint range you're using. It's best to work in both combination. Like you can see on my wall, I do have some P3 over there, Secret Weapon, Game Color, all the Minitaire. I got some Model Layer, Life Colors. I have a bunch of color and I will use them all. But mainly for the Airbrush, the Minitaire will be my go-to paint because they are absolutely fantastic. So basically that's pretty much it. If you do have more questions about this paint range, just drop it in the comment section. I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. Also, you can find those paints at webairbrushes.com, and using the coupon, the Ichiban coupon, Ichiban Painting coupon doesn't work right now. I don't know, I have to talk with Ken from Badger to make sure that it's all set up, or maybe I made a mistake in the coupon itself. But there's a coupon in the description that gives you 50% off, and it's valid until January 10th. If you go in the new product section of the website, you're going to be able to find the Minitaire paint range, but right now they are only available to buy as a whole set and not individually, but in the future there will be available individually. There's also some stock lister in the UK, in the US, in Canada, and around the world that are right now stocking up on those paints, so you're going to be able to buy it depending on what country you're on from those retailer. And I will do a video update once those retailers have their paints, and I have a list of the retailer where it's available, so you guys are going to be able to purchase it for your own airbrushing fancy needs. So basically that's pretty much it. This was Hugo from Ichiban Painting, and please stick around. In the future I will have some other videos where I'm actually going to be painting something, a model with the Minitaire paint, so you're going to be able to see me paint, and you're going to be able to see those paint in action. So this was Hugo from Ichiban Painting. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to the video. It does help me a lot. And I will see you in the next video. Cheers for watching.